to the very end. I just praise the Lord for her. But this last verse, hasten on from grace to glory, armed by faith, winged by prayer. Heaven's eternal days before me, God's own hand shall guide me there. You know, just the wonder of the hope that we have, that what's out before us, you know. Praise the Lord. And so that kind of carries us, I guess, into our scripture. Jesus was a parable teller, and I have a couple of different commentaries and books just on his parables alone. I mean, he was, if you'll just look at the parables and the way that he used those, I mean, great teaching tool for us. And so we're going to look just only at 2 verses today, and it kind of ties with a former couple of verses, but we're just looking at this one today. It kind of are I guess a lot of people lump them together, sister parables, if you will. We're going to just focus in on a precious pearl. It's Matthew 13, 45 and 46. Because it was a sister parable, he refers back to the other one in a way. He says, again, in other words, I'm just kind of following the same line of thought. Again, he says, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who on finding one pearl of great value went and sold all that he had and bought it. I suppose, you know, if you just stop and you think, kingdom of heaven, pearl. A lot of things are wrapped up, you know, we kind of fly over things. And we just, our thoughts, we just kind of, things fly out, you know, and in and out. Okay, what's next? I'm just going to stop today, and I want to think on 2 verses. And I want to dwell on them long enough that we can kind of saturate ourselves in them a little bit. A lot of times I'm guilty of trying to cover too much. You know, I mean, I grab the big picture and try to shove it all in, and, you know, then you sit there and go, why did he preach so long? My pot roast is burnt, you know? And maybe today will be short, I don't know. Just however it comes out. I just want to focus a little bit on these 2 verses because, you know, Jesus' words are precious. And whether it's red letter in your Bible or not, you know, to focus in on what he means, what he says. You know, a lot of people gather around and sit at his feet. And they will dwell upon what he had to say. And just to sit there. And for me, you guys just, maybe you don't, and I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you don't see, you know, my study. I when you focus in on word. And you go in on word to relationship, to how it all fits together, to the big picture, to the small picture. You know, you unfold and you push it back together again. There's a lot that goes into what Jesus says, and he doesn't want us just to whoosh. You know? So, to say that the kingdom of heaven, just the kingdom of heaven, is a big thing to unpack. I mean, you go through the scriptures and all that he said on the kingdom of heaven, there's a lot there. A lot that he said about the kingdom of heaven. You know, it's within you. And you know, there's so much. It's unveiled to us through his words. But you know, we are on earth. We go through a lot of things day by day by day. And for him to pull in one occupation, for him to pull in a merchant, for him to pull in and say the kingdom of heaven is like, and then grab this merchant out of thin air, you know, he could have chosen anything. He could have chosen blacksmith. You know, I'm sure that he could have chose your occupation, whatever it was, and liken the kingdom of heaven to that. in some way or another. And so, just to pick on the merchant here, a merchant in search of fine pearls, this is a particular, very specific kind of merchant that he's talking about. But every one of us, I'm sure that Jesus could have chosen you and taken your particular job. Could have been working for Blair. Could have been a piano teacher. Could have worked for computer tech. Whatever, truck driver, garbage, you name it. And Jesus could have took your life and he could have said, the kingdom of heaven is like. Because every one of us had the seeds of that likeness in us. Every one of us, whatever occupation. It could have been no, what we call a vocation, but it could just been your life occupation. And Jesus could have likened the kingdom of heaven to that. Because he wants to apply it to each one of us. Yourself. Yourself. What is your life occupation? We all have activity in our life, and we all have goals. And as we look at this, when Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like, a simile, he applies it to a person, and he's looking at how that person can use their life and their activities, how that person flows into the kingdom of heaven. There's a likeness that he can draw. There's analogies. There's things that Jesus can use in our lives to kind of draw us in the kingdom of heaven together in assembly. How is your life? How is your occupation like the kingdom of heaven? Well, it's basically yourself. What do you do? What is your life like? What is your occupation and your goals? There is purpose in that. You have purpose in your life. And there is purpose in your life that relates to the kingdom of heaven. Now, he draws out this one specific one. But if we were to generalize it, every one of us has purpose. Every one of us has activities and goals. And there is something about each one of us that is empty without that purpose and goals. Now, if you were a merchant in search of fine pearls, for you, that would be you would be looking for those fine pearls. Right? Piano teacher, looking for that maybe, stellar student or something, this, perfect student ready to go and, do some kind of concert or something, you could work for, maybe work for in sales, like say for Blair, and try to find that person that's going to get your sales numbers up or whatever it might be, I don't know. But whatever your goals are, it's wrapped up in our lives. We have those kind of things that we're doing. It might not even be with your vocation occupation. It might just be to chase a comfortable home, or your family, or whatever it might be. But there's a search within us. There's the search for satisfaction. There's life goals and activities that we're looking for something to fill the hole. And along comes the kingdom of heaven. And so Jesus likens that because he sees in this merchant there is something that this merchant is looking for. And he finds something very valuable. And in his life goals, he finds a pearl. And so Jesus takes the best that he could imagine in his life goals, and he pulls in the kingdom of heaven, and he says this and this. The best you can imagine, and he says this and this. And he spiritualizes it. And he takes us from the world to the best of worlds. And he draws that analogy. Because our work and our value are tied together. Our activity of our life and how we see ourselves, our purpose. Now, some people may find themselves like work less. You know, and with men, I know, being a guy, there's a lot of self-investment in the things that we do. When you say, what do you do, or who are you, a lot of people say, you know, men will tie it right to their work. It immediately goes to, I'm a mechanic, or I'm a, you know, whatever they do. And they invest themselves in that. A lot of times women are more nurturing, I guess. And so, you know, motherhood comes in play in there a lot, and the work values kind of fall to the side of other things, I think. But there's value that we seek. And if we're laid aside from those, we seek to find purpose and meaning in our lives. And so the value of ourselves, we want that value to be filled some way or another. And so we seek significance for ourselves. That's really what we're doing. Why am I here? My life must have meaning. What is my significance in life? And so if you're a merchant, you got to find their significance in the chase. And if you're a merchant to find pearls, the chase after the best pearl. Now, I was looking online and the whole chase of pearls, man, for someone who's a pearl diver, to find that, a special pearl is something else. Now today, there's a lot of pearl farms. Pearl farms are, you know, they have these kind of like pearl beds where they have the mollusks and oysters, all this stuff is all set up. You know, they have them in set up in certain cages and strings, lines they have all set up, and they search, you know, these cultured pearls. They insert something, an irritant inside of each oyster to get the perfect pearl, you know, try to get it. But the wild pearl is worth so much more. And so there's these pearl divers going in search of this exotic pearl. I was amazed. Hundreds of thousands of dollars for a single pearl. You know, I thought, wow. You know, hit the mother lode there, you know, $198,000 for one pearl. A black pearl on a necklace. And I saw that. Man. And so this, you can imagine, if you were a pearl diver and you came up with that, you know, that'd be like, wow. But aren't we all seeking that kind of a significance in our lives? I want my life to have meaning. And it goes beyond just the stuff of life. We have hopes and aspirations. We always want that thing out there, that hopes and aspirations that will lead us farther from than where we're at. Where are you at in life? What are you reaching for? What are your goals? What are your unrealized goals? Because once you reach a goal, you know, you kind of reach out for the next one. So you're kind of reaching out to almost like, it seems like an unreachable goal. What's the biggest? What's the best? And that's what we really are trying to find is our potential. We're trying to realize ultimately our ultimate potential. Where's the highest you can reach? And sometimes our limitations put us in a place where we're saying, I can't reach any higher than this. And we imagine in our minds these limits that like really confine us. My hearing. I have limits. My hearing defines me or confines me. My eyesight. My mobilization, I can't walk like I'd like to. I can't run anymore. My old bones are creaking. There are a lot of limitations that we put on ourselves and that we imagine that hold us back. But you know, there is no limitation in here. The thing is that there's always further to reach. There's always those bigger and better things. And even though we feel those limitations in our lives, we imagine, is there any limit to our imagination? I don't know. I don't know if there really is, because as a kid, I used to not think so. I mean, I could sit in a pile of dirt and I could imagine all kinds of things. I could push a little truck, I mean, I could imagine a lot with a oatmeal box in a Hot Wheels car, I mean, I could go to the moon and back when I was a kid. So your imagination, but I think today we've kind of bound our imagination. I think we've pre-imagined. Like we want to imagine for our kids. And so they've come up with all these things where the kids no longer have to have an imagination. You want a car that goes to the moon and can fly and turn into a superhero? Well, we'll imagine it for you, and then okay, there you already have it. You don't have to imagine anymore. It's just, So I think sometimes we've limited our imagination. But go bigger and go higher. If we really honestly look, if the things that limit us, maybe we're afraid of death. And that limits us, and we think that that's our limit. It's in a box somewhere. And a time, maybe it's time. I don't have many years left. And we see the years closing in, and we think, man, I'm almost finished. I don't have much time left. I better hurry up. And, all of those things coming crashing down. But we need to open our minds and think bigger, because Jesus says you have so much potential.
That's right.
And he says, if you can imagine big enough, if you were, like, say, a merchant of fine pearls, specified, right? He draws it down. I mean, there's all kinds of merchants in Jesus' day, right? I mean, they would sell all kinds of that stuff. But he focuses in on someone who has a very specific job. And he says, a merchant of fine pearls. And he focuses in on that one thing. And he says, if you were that person, what is the biggest imagination? And he says, you think of the rarest find and the best thing. And you can be that person. He says, this is what this person is looking for.
That's right.
And that's a unique opportunity, and that's for you. And so you take that and you transplant that into your world and your limitations. Maybe you can only dive so big, Pearl Diver. You can only dive so far, right, Pearl Diver? What if you could dive farther? Open your imagination. The rarest find. This pearl diver, or pearl merchant, he says, you know what? Found one pearl of great value. One pearl. Not 100 pearls, not 1,000 pearls, not a basket of pearls, but one. A single thing. What is the one single thing? You don't just lump it all together. It's one thing. And it's a unique, rare opportunity. What would be the capstone of you? And he says, this merchant found the one thing that he was looking for. One pearl, the best you could ever imagine, great value, precious. And he says, he's looking at that one pearl. And that becomes his focus. Everything else is gone. I gotta have it. I gotta have that one. That's the one I need. All the other pearls pale by comparison. All the other things just like, I don't want that, I don't want that, I want that. And he finds the one he wants. Do you have your homeowners here? Homeowners, I got a neighbor, kind of looking to sell his house, and he's looking to maybe buy another house, and he's thinking, I don't want the home, I want the best home. And so I was talking to him, and he says, I kind of found a house that, I'm kind of thinking of, but it's not the one. I could maybe settle there, but it really isn't the one. It's like he could settle for less, maybe. But it's really not what he's looking for. Well, this pearl merchant, he couldn't imagine a better. This is the one he's looking for. And so his focus gets so narrow that everything else passes away. He's not looking for others anymore. He's not, his focus isn't like all over the place anymore. It isn't like, okay, I could have this, or I could have this, or I could have this. This is where the world finds itself today. Most of the world has no focus. It's all just whoosh, all over the place. And most of the world is so spread out, It's like, what's your desire? Well, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And they have so many, their list of their desires is so big. I want all this. I want to have it all. Right? Isn't that where most people are focused today? I want to have it all. I want to have the home, and I want to have the car, and I want to have the family, and I want to have the job, and I want to have the money. I want to have this, and this, and this, and this, and bigger, and more, and better. And they're just lost. Their focus is so broad, they end up, most people don't have it all.
That's right.
Because they're trying to get it all. And what they need to do is to find where they can have it all and narrow their focus away from all. Because there all needs to be more focus. This merchant found the have it all into one thing. And that is, and it's Jesus will make the likeness the kingdom of heaven. It's like the pearl of great price is like the kingdom of heaven. And the merchant is like you. You are this merchant. And you are in search of the ultimate. And the only way to find your answer to your search for fulfillment, the only way to find the answer to that ultimate potential of your life meaning is to find the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
You have to determine to reach for the stars.
That's right.
To reach for the stars. Too many people are not. They're reaching for the earth. They're reaching for the things of earth. They're reaching for just stuff. See, the thing is, this merchant saw that he was missing something. He did not have that one thing. He is missing something. And it isn't until, as people, that we realize what we're missing that we can begin to focus. A lot of people in this world don't know what they're missing. They have no idea of the kingdom of heaven. They spin their wheels, they spend their life, their day after day after day for what? In the end, it's nothing. It's an empire they're trying to build on earth. And it all wastes away. And the Bible talks about the futility of that because it says, who will have what you've given so much for when you die? When you pass away, what do you have left? There was a guy, in another parable, Jesus told about a guy that was a rich fella. He had all kinds of stuff, and he decided to build barns and store it all in so he could spend his life enjoying that. And God called him a fool.
That's right.
Because that day, he would meet his Maker. And he was not rich toward God. See, we have to recognize our need. And we have to recognize our need to the point where all those things pass away, those other things, they're not important. I know in my heart, I came to the point, and I hope you can identify what I'm talking about. You've come to the point where in your heart you recognize there's nothing you need more than the kingdom of heaven.
That's right.
Jesus is the answer to every need you have.
Amen.
That you cannot fill your life with stuff and be satisfied. And the only way you can find that satisfaction is in Jesus.
That's right.
Which, by the way, when you talk about the kingdom of heaven, you find the fulfillment of that in Jesus.
Yes.
So we have to recognize our need.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people missing out, and we have to realize we are missing out. I don't care if you have, you could have all of the earth. Jesus also says, what good is it? What good is it if you have the world and forfeit your soul?
That's right.
The one thing you need, the heavenly kingdom. What's the value of the heavenly kingdom? Everything. It's worth everything. What are you going to give up for the heavenly kingdom?
Everything.
What's it worth?
Everything.
What's it worth to you? If Jesus told you you had to sell your home and go to, I don't know, outer Mongolia, whatever that place is that you tell Jesus you anywhere but there.
That's right.
There's a lot of people that haven't anywhere but there. I'll go anywhere but there. That's the one place you're going.
That's right.
But you have to understand, you can't put the limits on that.
That's right.
There has to be a place in your heart where you're willing to say, I'm giving up all my pearls. I'm taking every pearl I have. I'm digging in the closets. I'm everywhere, everything I've got. I'm putting it all on the line.
Yep.
Every single last pearl. Don't have one in my pocket. Ain't saving one for later to look at and treasure. No. I wonder if pearls could be likened to sin. I think so, in this instance. Anything that keeps you from that everything.
Yes.
Anything that keeps you from giving everything, that one thing that you're holding on to, can keep you from the kingdom. It is worth everything. The value, what we are reaching out for that potential is worth everything. You can't imagine enough. Can't imagine what the Lord has prepared for those who.
Amen.
You can't get big enough in your head. And you have to come to that place where you realize that. It's better than you imagined. And if that's the case, you can imagine what you have, right? You can rehearse in your mind everything that you have. Your house, your family, everything. You could spend days going over it. What do I have in my closets, my drawers, out in the garage, blah, blah, blah. And you lump it all together and say, that's nothing compared to this.
Amen.
But yet people today are just focused on the stuff. And we have to relax our grip on that. It's like we're holding on to that. And as Christians, I know we can become so, we take it for granted. We take grace for granted. It's like cheap grace as well. Jesus gave it all, and I'll take it all, and everything else besides. And give me this, and give me that. And we become so enamored by the world. It's almost like the other world, like the heavenly kingdom, is just kind of an add-on. It's like a tack-on.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us, you've been in there for a while. I've been a Christian. Yeah, okay, well, I got Jesus, and now what else can I get? And everything takes our focus away from Jesus and all the stuff. We become so enamored with the stuff of the world. I want a new car, I want to buy this, I'd like to get that, it'd make my life easier, blah, blah, blah. And we lump it all together, and our focus is over here and all this stuff. And We've taken that precious pearl and we shoved it in the back closet, and it's back there somewhere, and that precious pearl doesn't have our focus anymore. That precious pearl is just an add-on. It's just a, well, I got that.
Yeah.
How precious is the kingdom of heaven to you today? How precious is the world to you? How is your grip on the world? Have you kind of like got your claws in, you know, scrambling for more? I want this and I want that. You know, there's a lot of people I've seen that are down and outers. You know, that you've seen them. You've seen those people, you know, that looks like they've just lost it all. They've lost their health. Spend all their money on hospital bills. We pity them, poor people. But a lot of times it's just right there where they've lost everything, where everything is gone, and you think that, man, how down and out can you get? They're about as down and out as they come. And that's the place where they find, where they look to Jesus and they realize that stuff is nothing. The only thing, the one thing is Jesus. We've got to get back there. Relax our grip. We have to get that heavenly focus again and start reaching back toward that one goal. Where's your eyes, merchants? Is your eye still on that one pearl? Or has your eye been drawn aside to all the little pearls and all the little trinkets and all the things around you to where that one pearl has lost its value? Where it's just like an add-on? Take it for granted? You got to relax your grip on things. Fall in love with Jesus again. Ephesians, you know, the Ephesian church, the letter to Ephesians and Revelations, that's, man, talk about an indictment. You left your first love. And we're going to sing hymn number 582. Jean has positioned herself so expertly. Cheap grace. We receive it. It doesn't mean a lot because we feel like it's just something we deserve, something that's been earned for us maybe, but like it's for me and I can just take it and we don't really value it. What if you had to give it all up right now? If I said you lose it all this instant, would you grip? Would you stick cat claws in it and say everything on earth and try to just pull it to yourself and say, I can't lose that, I can't lose that? Or would you say, it's all right, as long as I have Jesus? This is I guess a call to pre-surrender. To give it up before you have to give it up. So you can get it while you still can. It's kind of getting while the getting's good. Focus on that girl, folks. We're going to sing hymn number 582. The kingdom of God is precious. Let's not forget sight. Let's not lose sight of that. If I Let go of the stuff. Reach out for Him. Lord, as we look to you today, may we treasure you above all else. Wean us from earth. Guard our hearts from greed, covetousness. Guard our hearts, Lord, from those things that are mere trinkets compared to the treasure that will never rust, where no moth, no rust, nothing can destroy. Help us, Lord, that our hearts, that our treasure may be in heaven.